What's up guys, it's Darren Jackson and welcome to this new playlist that I'm going to call CoinTalkTV. Sounds like exactly what it will be. I want to create this playlist to talk about all things cryptocurrency. In my investing journey, just similar to a lot of you guys I'm sure, I've learned that ever since the merge of Bitcoin back in the early 2000s, the idea of investing into a decentralized digital currency as an asset, whether it's short-term or long-term, makes sense, and it's pretty normal up until this point. Hopefully a lot of us are investing in a cryptocurrency. And it's really cool because a lot of cryptocurrencies out there, from Ethereum to even Dogecoin, are seeing some type of problem and they're using their platform to solve it. So I wanted to make this channel to hopefully talk about a lot of altcoins and anything crypto related, and more importantly, hopefully talk to those who are more so beginners, whether you are too nervous to invest into a cryptocurrency or you invested into one, you're not really sure what you got yourself into. Hopefully by the end of this journey or by the end of these videos, both of us can learn more about what we're actually doing when it comes to investing into cryptocurrencies. Hopefully you guys enjoy this. And with that being said, let's talk about Stellar. So when it comes to me talking about different altcoins, I'm going to talk to you guys about it in regards to the way I think about it and do the research before I actually invest into one. So hopefully you guys appreciate that. Let me know in the comments below how you guys feel about this process that I take, that you'll know about the end of this video. But the first thing I like to do is figure out the problem that this network is trying to solve, Stellar in particular. So the problem that comes to mind is the idea of transferring currency between borders. Now, the primary way you would do that, the more popular way you would do that at this point, is something called a wire transfer that you would do with your bank. Now, wire transfer is pretty cool because you could essentially transfer a substantial amount of money from one person to another, where it's domestic or in this case international. But in that case, there are two things that I'm pretty concerned about that I consider an inconvenience when it comes to a wire transfer. Now for starters, you have the fees. The fees typically range between $30 to $35 per wire transfer, which isn't technically that bad considering the amount of money you're able to transfer from yourself to whomever you're transferring to. But if you would choose between $30 to $35 and little to nothing, I'm sure a lot of us would choose little to nothing. But the second issue and the second problem is what I feel like is where it gets more inconvenient, and that's the aspect of time. So with a wire transfer, the amount of time it typically takes to go from your account to someone else's account is about 3 to 5 business days. And of course, that varies on what bank it's going to and if it's domestic and yet again international. So if it's international, you are looking at up to 5 business days. But here's the other problem that I honestly didn't think about, and maybe a lot of you guys didn't think about when it comes to doing wire transfers. It's the efficiency of the exchange rate. So of course, currencies like the United States dollar and the Brazilian currency they don't range on the same amount. So there's this exchange rate that will determine how much of your dollars will be of how much of their currency. So it's very possible that within 3 to 5 business days, when that recipient receives that currency, that exchange rate would have actually saved you more money had you been able to exchange that currency on that exchange rate. You would have been able to send a smaller amount of dollars to be the equivalent of the same amount of whatever currency you're sending to. So that's another issue that I didn't really think about, and that's something that Stellar is trying to solve. So the next thing I like to look at is the history and the overall purpose of the cryptocurrency in relation to the problem that it's trying to solve. So with Stellar, it was originally created in 2014 via a secret website called the Secret Bitcoin Project. The initial goal of that project was to attract alpha and beta testers to ultimately create what we know now as the Stellar Network, which was created in 2015 and co-founded by a former lawyer named Joyce Kim and the co-founder of Ripple, Jed McCaleb. And you're gonna probably hear his name pop up a couple of times, so there's a lot of resemblances between Stellar and Ripple. The purpose of Stellar is ultimately to unite all financial institutions, whether domestic and international, and put them on a solo network, therefore being able to have the ability to transfer currencies from one currency to the next and make it more efficient and more fluid, which I think is great. I think it's awesome. So with that being said, the next thing I look at is the technology details, and that's where we're going to the network itself and this whole blockchain aspect. Stellar also gives you the opportunity to create a digital representation of a physical asset. Anything that you think has some type of value, you're able to create that digitally, and it enables you to use their blockchain to trade that asset on a solo network. Their blockchain is actually called the Stellar Consensus Protocol, and that consensus protocol pretty much uses independent digital computers essentially to come together, verify transactions, and together create a conclusion on what will pass and what will fail, as far as, in this case, currencies that are trying to be created and added onto this network to be exchanged. This consensus protocol by Stellar is actually based off a forked blockchain of Ripple, which again makes sense because Jeff McCaleb. And the whole protocol itself sounds pretty boring, but it's actually really cool because it's essentially more efficient in regards to other types of blockchain technology, especially when it comes to Bitcoin. Bitcoin uses a technique such as proof of work, which needs a lot more energy in regards to what Stellar and a lot of other altcoins use in their blockchain called proof of stake, which enables different nodes essentially to verify a transaction. That's pretty much all it's doing, but it's essentially saving the world, and lately that's been more attractive to this country and obviously to this world. So speaking of currencies that you can create, if you go on the Stellar website, you can already see that they have currencies that have already been created and available to transfer between yourself and someone else domestically or internationally. And that can range from the US dollar, stuff like even Bitcoin, Mexican pesos, euros, Nigerian Naira, etc., etc. And what's really cool is that they have this transfer process called path payment. So with path payment, it enables the initiator of the transfer to pick what currency they want to transfer out, and the recipient who will be receiving the currency can actually select what currency they would like to receive. Once that's completed, the Stellar network gives you the most effective and most competitive exchange rate that's beneficial for both users, and the transfer itself is seamlessly, almost instantaneously, especially in comparison to the wire transfer. So from that point, it eliminates the whole inconvenience of the time, which I think is awesome. The other inconvenience that it takes away is the fee itself. And that's where we're gonna introduce their native token, the Stellar Lumen. So the Stellar Lumen is important, for one, because the actual transfer fee to actually do transfers on their network is a astonishing 0.00001 Lumen. And at this point, at this time of recording this video, the Stellar Lumen is a little above 70 US cents and under 80 US cents. Basically, that destroys the other fees of wire transfers being $30 to $35 and eliminates that inconvenience. So they're obviously doing a great job so far. Also, if you want to use the network, you have to have at least one Lumen. Now, aside from the fact that it's a fee requirement and a minimum requirement to use a network, I actually like the reason why they chose to have their own native token, especially to be used as the fee, because they wanted to eliminate the possibility of any negative political interaction that could have any negative impact towards their ledger. It would make sense that if they chose their fee to be off the Mexican peso or something like the US dollar, that it could show that they're favoring a certain country more than another country, and it can cause a lot of unnecessary conflict. So why do that when instead you can create your own native currency? On top of that, they want to show more of the openness of the internet and show how they are a true decentralized network. And they can only be decentralized and open if they're not favoring one person and they're just favoring their own network, which essentially makes sense. And when you favor your own network and you're showing the openness and the decentralization of your currency and your network in general, then you're going to attract a lot of people. And speaking of attracting a lot of people, that's where I like to go into the adoption rate / price prediction. Price prediction pretty much spells itself out. And I warn you guys, I'm not a professional at predicting prices of pretty much anything, especially with cryptocurrency nowadays, but I try to do as much research as I can. And I think about the pros and the cons of the actual cryptocurrency and based off the history of it to kind of get an idea of what could potentially happen next. And with adoption rate, just in case for you guys that don't know what that is, that basically just involves how many coins are out there, how many coins are circulating at this point, and if this coin is inflationary or deflationary. and I'll get into what that means in just a second. So back when this coin was launched in 2015, it was more defined as an inflationary currency. The reason behind that is because there were at that point 100 billion lumens just laying around able to be picked up by users, and every year they would increase the amount of lumens by 1%. So considering that the balance of the stellar lumen was infinite because of that 1% increase, then we could consider it, at that time at least, an inflationary form of currency. However, starting around October of 2019, they decided to stop that and turn it into a deflationary form of currency by, for starters, removing 50 billion from circulation, which they either did as a manual burn into a safe where no one can access, or they disperse it amongst themselves as founders, etc. And now they have a remaining 50 billion up to this day, and about 20 billion are in circulation. So you have almost another 30 billion that's available to be picked up by users. And speaking of users, they currently have about 4.3 million account holders, meaning they have at least 4.3 million lumens running around being held on by people, because you need at least one to use the network itself. And the amount of users that they have is really important when we talk about this price prediction. What's also really important is the fact that it's a deflationary form of currency. At least in my opinion, I think the fact that it's a deflationary form of currency is really beneficial. Something like the Bitcoin is deflationary. It has 121 million that's available to be mined, and once that's mined, that's it. They have a cap on what they're offering to the public. And when you have a cap, then the supply will eventually decrease as more people get into it, but the demand will go up as long as Stellar is becoming a major impact to this world. That's one of the pros, and another pro is the actual problem they're trying to solve. A lot of us have friends and family members that live in other countries, and whether you want to give money as a gift or for an emergency, the idea and the fact that you could use something like the Stellar network to seamlessly, effectively, efficiently, and rapidly transfer currency from yours to theirs for whatever situation is something really amazing. But it's only going to come down to if other financial institutions actually embrace the network itself. And that will definitely determine if the price of it's going to go up or down. At this point in time, I did some research and I saw websites like Coin News that predicted that by the end of this year, it should hit a high of 75 cents per coin, a low of 60 cents US cents per coin. And at this point, it's almost 80 cents. I'm sure at one point it's almost hit 90 cents. So it just depends on a lot of news that comes out, whether it's good or people talk too much and it's bad. And they're predicting by 2025, it should hit a high of $2.50 and a low of about $1.50, I believe. So at least from that standard, this may be a good opportunity to hold. But ultimately, guys, it does depend on if people decide to take on this idea of Stellar and use of their network. But unfortunately, the fact that they're so niche and they have other competitors like Ripple could make it more difficult for them to stand out. But we're just gonna have to see what happens. And I do think that Stellar is gonna be something that'll be really effective in the future. But guys, let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments below, are you actually holding on to Stellar? If so, how much? How did you hear about it? Why are you holding on to it? Let me know if there are any other altcoins or any other types of cryptocurrency related conversations that you want me to have with you guys. At the end of the day, this is just a new asset and a new wave and a new reason why we are exchanging this information on our investing journey, because it never ends. Speaking of this investing journey, hopefully you guys watch some of these other videos that I have on my channel, and I do hope that they help you guys on your investing journey as they have in mine. And by the way, let me know what you think about this whole idea of CoinTalkTV. But in the meantime, guys, I appreciate you guys watching, and until next time, take care.